Park Ho looked at his hands. They were old now, covered with small scars and burn marks from 45 years of fixing starships. Tomorrow, these hands would hold a retirement certificate instead of tools. After 4.5 decades of work, he was finally done. The salvage station floated in the darkness of space, orbiting a dying red star. Omega 7 was not a beautiful place. It was a place where broken ships came to be fixed or torn apart. Ho had spent the last 20 years here, and he knew every corner of the station like he knew his own face. One more day, he said to himself as he walked through the metal hallways. Just one more day. His apprentice, Li Bin, was waiting for him in the repair bay. She was young, only 28 years old, but she had good hands and a sharp mind. In a few hours, this would be her repair bay. Ho felt proud and sad at the same time. "Good morning, teacher," Bin said with a small bow. "Commander wants to see you. She says there is one final job." Ho laughed. "Of course there is. There is always one more job." He walked to the command center where his old friend Jin was waiting. She was a strong woman with gray hair and tired eyes. They had worked together for 15 years, and she knew him better than anyone on the station. "Ho," she said, "I know tomorrow is your last day, but we have a situation." "What kind of situation?" Jin pointed to the large window. In the distance, Ho could see a ship. It was old and dark, floating without power. Ships like this came to the station all the time, but something about this one was different. "It drifted into our sector 3 hours ago," Jin explained. "No identification markers, no signals. Our scanners say it is at least 300 years old." Ho raised his eyebrows. 300 years was very old for a ship. Most vessels did not last more than 100 years in space. "What species built it?" he asked. "That is the problem. We do not know. The design does not match any known species in our database. Not human, not nothing." Ho felt something wake up inside him. In 45 years, he had seen thousands of ships. He had never seen one that did not match any known design. "I will take a look," he said. "There is one more thing," Jin added. Her voice was careful now. "The alien mechanics refuse to go near it. They say it gives them wrong feelings, bad energy." Ho smiled. "I am too old to believe in bad energy. I believe in broken parts and loose wires." He gathered his tools and called Bin to come with him. They took a small shuttle to the floating ship. As they got closer, Ho studied its shape. It was long and thin, like a needle. The metal was dark gray, covered with dust and small holes from space rocks. "It looks sad," Bin said quietly. Ho agreed. The ship did look sad. It looked like something that had been alone for a very long time. They found an airlock on the side and managed to open it. The inside was dark, but their lights showed a narrow hallway. The air was cold and stale but breathable. Someone had built this ship to last. "Stay close," Ho told Bin, "and tell me if you see anything strange." They walked slowly through the ship. The walls were covered with dust and some kind of dried plant growth. Old screens hung on the walls, all of them dead. Ho touched the metal with his fingers. It felt familiar somehow, but he could not say why. Then he saw something that made him stop. On one wall there was writing. It was faded and hard to read, but Ho recognized it immediately. His heart began to beat faster. "Bin," he said, his voice shaking, "do you see this?" Bin looked at the wall. Her eyes went wide. The writing was in Korean. "That is impossible," she whispered. "This ship is 300 years old. Humans were barely traveling between planets 300 years ago." Ho did not answer. He kept walking faster now. More writing appeared on the walls, signs pointing to different sections of the ship, all in Korean. Old Korean, the kind his grandmother used to speak. They reached what looked like the cockpit. It was small, with 2 chairs facing a large window. The controls were simple compared to modern ships. Everything looked ancient but carefully made. Ho noticed something on one of the chairs, a small frame lying face down. He picked it up and turned it over. It was a photograph. In the picture, a group of people stood together, smiling. They wore old spacesuits, the kind that existed before Ho was born. Behind them was a gray, rocky surface, and in the black sky above them hung a blue and white planet. Earth and its moon. Ho's hands began to shake. He counted the people in the photograph, 20 of them standing proudly in front of a ship, the same ship he was standing in right now. Teacher Bin asked, "What is it?" Ho looked at the bottom of the photograph. There were words written there, also in Korean. First crew of the Earth year 2089. May we find a new home among the stars. The Rose of Sharon. Ho had heard this name before in old history classes. It was humanity's first colony ship, sent to find a new world when Earth was dying. 200 people had volunteered to sleep in frozen chambers while the ship traveled to distant stars. The had disappeared. No signal, no wreckage, no trace. For 312 years, everyone believed it was destroyed. The colonists were remembered as brave heroes who died trying to save humanity. But the ship was here. It had not been destroyed. It had been drifting through space all this time, alone in the darkness. "Bin," Ho said slowly, "call Commander. Tell her to come here immediately." "What should I say?" Ho looked at the photograph one more time. He thought about those brave people who had left everything behind, hopping to find a new home. He thought about how far humanity had come since then, spreading across the galaxy, meeting other species, building stations like Omega-7. These people had started it all, and no one had ever known what happened to them. "Tell her," Ho said, "that I found our ancestors." He put the photograph carefully in his pocket. Then he looked at the control panel. One of the lights was blinking. It was small and red, and it should not have been blinking at all. The ship still had power. After 300 years floating in space, something on this ship was still alive. Ho forgot all about retirement. He had found the biggest repair job of his life, and he was not going to walk away now. Commander Jin arrived within the hour. She brought 2 security officers and a medical team with her. When she stepped inside the ancient ship and saw the Korean writing on the walls, she had to hold onto the doorframe to keep herself steady. "This is real," she said quietly. "This is actually real." Ho nodded. He had spent the last hour exploring more of the ship. Every new discovery made his heart beat faster. Old food containers with Korean labels, sleeping quarters with names written on the doors, a small garden room where plants had died centuries ago. The Jin said the name like a prayer. "My great-grandmother used to tell me stories about this ship. She said her grandfather knew one of the colonists." "Everyone thought they were dead," Bin added. "All the history books say the ship was destroyed." Ho showed them the blinking light he had found. "Something on this ship still has power. That should be impossible after 300 years. The batteries should have died long ago." Jin looked at the light. "Can you find out what is still running?" "I can try, but this ship is very old. The technology is different from what we use now. It will take time." They were interrupted by a loud noise from outside. Through the cockpit window, they could see another shuttle approaching. This one was not from Omega-7. It was sleek and silver, with markings that Ho recognized immediately. "Officials," Jin said with a frown. "How did they find out so quickly?" They were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They had been traveling through space long before humans left Earth. They were also known for collecting things: ancient artifacts, old technology, rare objects. They believed that studying the past would help them control the future. A few minutes later, a tall figure walked into the ship. Inspector was atypical. He had pale blue skin, 4 arms, and large black eyes that seemed to see everything at once. He wore the silver uniform of a galactic official. "Commander," said. His voice was smooth and cold. I received reports of an unidentified vessel in your sector. I came to investigate. This is a human ship, Jin said firmly. It belongs to us. Walked around the cockpit slowly, looking at everything. His 4 hands touched the walls, the controls, the old screens. Ho did not like the way the alien looked at these things. It was the look of someone who wanted to own them. This ship is over 300 years old, said. Under galactic law, any vessel abandoned for more than 100 years becomes salvage. Anyone can claim it. It was not abandoned, Ho said. Everyone turned to look at him. The crew did not leave this ship. They are still here. His black eyes focused on the old mechanic. Explain. Ho pointed to the blinking light. The ship still has power. I believe it is coming from the bay, the frozen sleep chambers. You think there are survivors? Jin asked. I do not know, but something is still working down there. Something important enough that the ship protected it for 3 centuries. His expression changed. Before he had looked interested. Now he looked hungry. If there are survivors from humanity's first colony ship, they would be extremely valuable for study. Think of what we could learn from them. They are not objects to be studied, Ho said. His voice was harder now. They are people, human people. They are historical artifacts, replied, and I intend to claim them under galactic salvage law. The tension in the room was thick. The security officers put their hands on their weapons. Jin's officers did the same. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Jin spoke. Inspector, this ship is currently in my sector. Until the Galactic Council makes a decision, it stays under my protection. You are welcome to observe, but you will not take anything. Stared at her. Then he smiled, showing rows of small, sharp teeth. Very well, Commander, I will observe, for now. He walked to a corner of the cockpit and stood there, watching. His 4 arms crossed over his chest. His black eyes never blinked. Ho tried to ignore him. He had more important things to worry about. He needed to find the bay and see what was still running. Bin, he said, help me find the ship's computer. If I can get it working, it will show us where everything is. They searched for an hour before finding the main computer room. It was small and filled with old machines. Most of them were dead, but one terminal still had a faint glow. Ho sat down and began to work. The computer was very different from modern systems. It used old programs and old languages, but Ho had fixed many old ships in his career. He knew how to talk to ancient machines. Slowly the terminal came to life. Words appeared on the screen, written in Old Korean. Ho read them carefully, translating for Bin and Jin. Ship name, launch date, March 15, 2089. Mission, find new home for human colonists. Crew, 203 people. More words appeared. These ones made Ho's breath stop. Current date, unknown. Ship status, emergency power only. Base status, 12 pods active. Occupants, alive. The room went completely silent. 12 people. 12 human beings who had been asleep for more than 300 years, waiting for someone to find them, waiting for someone to wake them up. Alive, Bin whispered. They are alive. Stepped forward, his eyes bright with interest. This changes everything. Living survivors from the first human expedition. The Galactic Science Academy will want to study them. The Historical Society will want to interview them. This discovery will be famous across the galaxy. They are not laboratory subjects, Ho said angrily. They are our ancestors. They left Earth to save humanity. They deserve respect, not experiments. I agree with Ho, Jin said. These people are human citizens. When they wake up, they will have all the rights of any human in the galaxy. If they wake up, said, after 300 years their minds may be damaged, their bodies may be weak, they may not survive revival. Ho stood up from the computer. Then I will make sure they survive. I will repair whatever needs to be repaired. I will fix whatever is broken. He looked at the screen one more time. 12 lives depending on an old mechanic who was supposed to retire tomorrow. Show me where the bay is, he said to the computer. Show me how to reach them. The screen flickered. A map appeared showing the path through the ship. The bay was deep inside, protected by thick walls and heavy doors. Ho picked up his tools. His hands were steady now. He knew what he had to do. Ben, come with me. Commander, please keep our friend here busy. He walked toward the door. Behind him, he could hear protesting. But Ho did not care about galactic politics or salvage laws. He cared about 12 people who had been alone in the dark for 300 years. They had waited long enough. It was time for them to come home. The path to the bay was long and dark. Ho and Ben walked through narrow hallways, stepping over broken pipes and fallen panels. The ship had suffered much damage over the centuries. It was a miracle that anything still worked at all. Teacher, Ben said as they walked, how is this possible? How can 12 people survive and sleep for 300 years? The longest recorded survival is only 80 years. Ho had been thinking about the same question. I do not know yet, but we will find out. They reached a heavy door with Korean words written above it. Ho read them aloud. Bay Alpha, Hope sleeps here. The door was stuck. Ho used his tools to cut through the old locks. When the door finally opened, cold air rushed out. Their breath turned to white mist. The bay was a large room filled with rows of metal pods. Each pod was big enough to hold one person. Most of them were dark and silent, dead. But 12 of them glowed with soft blue light. Ben gasped, they are really there, real people. Ho walked slowly between the rows. He counted the dead pods as he passed them. 191 people had not survived. Their pods had failed at some point during the long journey. They had died in their sleep, never knowing what happened. But 12 had survived, 12 out of 203. He stopped at the first active pod and wiped the frost from the glass window. Inside, he could see a man's face. The man looked young, maybe 40 years old. He was peaceful, like he was just taking a nap. A small screen on the pod showed information. Ho read it carefully. Young, captain, age at freezing 42 years, status stable. The captain, the leader of humanity's first colony ship, sleeping here for 3 centuries, waiting to finish his mission. Ho moved to the next pod. 1 chief engineer, age at freezing 35 years, status stable. Something about this pod was different. The screen showed more information than the others. Ho looked closer and felt his heart grow heavy. Revival count, 17. What does that mean? Ben asked. Ho understood. His eyes became wet. She woke up. 17 times over 300 years she woke up from sleep. Why would anyone do that? Ho looked at the other pods. He looked at the power systems that kept them running. He looked at the repair marks on the walls and floors. Fresh welds, replaced wires, fixed panels. She woke up to make repairs, he said. Every time something broke, every time the ship needed help, she woke up. She fixed what was broken. Then she went back to sleep. Ben stared at the pod. For 300 years. She spent 300 years waking up alone, fixing things, and going back to sleep. That is what the numbers say. 17 revivals. Each time she lost years of her life. Sleep stops aging, but being awake does not. Ho wiped the frost from one's pod. The woman inside looked older than 35. Much older. Her hair was gray and her face had deep lines. She had given decades of her life to keep the others alive. She is a hero, Ben said quietly. Yes, Ho agreed. The greatest hero no one ever knew about. He examined the power systems more carefully. Now he understood how the ship had survived. One had been its guardian. Every 30 or 40 years when something failed, she woke up. She made repairs with whatever materials she could find. Then she went back to sleep, hoping that next time someone would come to help. The last repair marks looked about 50 years old. One had gone to sleep one final time, trusting that the ship would hold together long enough. And it had, just barely. "The main power core is failing," Ho said after checking the systems. "We have maybe 6 hours before it shuts down completely. When that happens, the pods will lose power." "What can we do?" "Two choices. We can try to repair the power core, or we can wake them up now before it is too late." Ben looked at the sleeping faces in their pods. "Can we wake them safely, after so long?" "I do not know. The revival process is dangerous. Their bodies are very weak after 300 years. Some of them might not survive." It was a terrible choice. Try to repair ancient technology in 6 hours, or risk killing the people they were trying to save. Ho looked at one's pod again. This woman had made the same choice 17 times. Each time she had chosen to fight. She had never given up. "We do both," Ho decided. "I will work on the power core. You contact Commander and tell her to send medical teams. If I cannot fix the core in time, we will start the revival process." Ben nodded and ran back toward the communication system. Ho opened his toolkit. His retirement could wait. These people needed him. He worked for 4 hours without stopping. The power core was old and strange. It used technology that Ho had never seen before. Some parts looked human, but other parts looked completely different. Alien. That was strange. There was supposed to be a purely human ship. Why would it have alien technology inside? Ho pushed the question aside. He could wonder about mysteries later. Right now, he needed to keep the power running. He found the main problem, a cracked energy cell. Power was leaking out faster than the core could make it. In the old days, replacing this cell would have been easy, but after 300 years, all the spare cells were dead. Ho thought hard. He looked at his tools, he looked at the cell. Then he had an idea. "Ben," he called through his communicator, "bring me the power cell from our shuttle, quickly." 20 minutes later, Ben arrived with the cell. It was modern technology, much more advanced than anything on the, but power was power. Ho carefully connected the new cell to the old system. It was like connecting a river to an ocean. The new cell was small, but it was strong. Energy flowed into the ancient power core, stabilizing it. The lights in the bay grew brighter. The pods hummed with new strength. "It is working," Ben said with relief. But Ho was not smiling. An alarm had started beeping on one of the pods, then another, then another. "What is happening?" Ben asked. Ho ran to the nearest pod and checked its screen. His face went pale. The power surge triggered the revival protocols. The pods are waking them up automatically. "Can you stop it?" Ho tried. He pressed buttons, entered commands, but the old system did not respond. "No, the process has started. They will be awake in 30 minutes. 30 minutes. After 312 years of sleep, 12 humans were about to wake up. They would open their eyes and see two strangers. They would learn that everyone they knew was dead. They would discover that the world they left behind had changed beyond imagination. Ho took a deep breath. He looked at Captain's pod, where frost was already melting from the glass. "Call the medical team," he told Ben, "and tell Commander to come here. Tell her to bring food, water, and warm blankets." "What will you do?" Ho pulled a chair close to the captain's pod and sat down. "I will be here when they wake up," he said. "Someone should be here to welcome them home." He watched the frost melt slowly. Inside the pod, the captain's fingers twitched. His eyes moved behind closed lids. 300 years was a long time to sleep, but the waiting was finally over. Captain Young opened his eyes. For a moment he did not move. His body felt heavy, like he was made of stone. His mind was foggy and confused. The last thing he remembered was stepping into the pod, saying goodbye to his crew and closing his eyes. Now he was awake, but something was wrong. The air smelled different. The sounds were different. And there was a face looking at him through the glass. an old face with kind eyes. The pod opened with a hiss. Warm air rushed in, making Young shiver. "Easy," the old man said in Korean. "Take your time. You have been asleep for a very long while." Young tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. The old man helped him drink some water. It was the best water Young had ever tasted. "Where am I?" he finally managed to ask. "Is this the colony? Did we arrive?" The old man looked sad. "No, Captain, you did not reach the colony. Your ship drifted off course a long time ago, but you are safe now." "How long?" Young asked. He was afraid of the answer. "How long was I asleep?" 312 years. The words hit Young like a physical blow. 300 years. Everyone he knew was dead. Earth was gone. His family, his friends, his world. All of it gone. "That cannot be true," he whispered. "I am sorry, Captain, it is true. But please believe me when I say this. Humanity survived. We are still here. We spread across the galaxy. We met other species. We built stations and cities among the stars. Everything you dreamed about, it came true." Young looked at the old man more carefully. He wore strange clothes with unfamiliar symbols, but he spoke Korean with an old-fashioned accent, like Young's grandparents used to speak. "Who are you?" "My name is Park Ho. I am a ship mechanic. I found your vessel floating in space and brought it to our station." Around them, more pods were opening. Other crew members were waking up, confused and scared. Medical teams in white uniforms moved between them, checking their health, giving them water. Young counted, 12 people, only 12 out of 203. "The others?" he asked, knowing the answer. Ho shook his head. "Their pods failed during the journey. I am sorry." Young closed his eyes. He had led 200 people into space, promising them a new home. Now only 12 remained. "Captain," Ho's voice was gentle, "there is someone you should see." He helped Young walk to another pod. Inside, an old woman was just waking up. Her hair was white, her face deeply lined, but Young recognized her eyes. "One," he could not believe it. "One, is that you?" One looked at him and smiled weakly. "Hello, Captain. You look exactly the same. I probably look like your grandmother now." "What happened to you?" One sat up slowly. Her body was frail and her hands shook. "The ship kept breaking down. Someone had to wake up and fix things, so I did." 17 times, Ho added. "She woke up 17 times over 300 years. Each time she repaired what was broken and went back to sleep. She saved all of you." Young took one's hands in his. They were thin and cold. This woman had sacrificed everything to keep them alive. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you does not feel like enough." One laughed softly. "You can buy me dinner when we reach the colony. Oh wait, I guess we never got there." Despite everything, Young smiled. The next few hours were overwhelming. Commander Jin arrived and explained the current state of the galaxy. She showed them pictures and videos on her data pad, cities on dozens of planets, stations floating in space, humans working alongside alien species. "We did it," one whispered as she watched. "We really did it." "Because of people like you," Jin said. "You were the first. You showed us it was possible." But the happy moment was interrupted by the arrival of Inspector. The official walked into the bay with armed guards behind him. "This is a historic occasion," announced. "The Galactic Science Academy demands access to these survivors. They must be studied to understand how they survived for so long." Young stepped in front of his crew. Even after 300 years of sleep, he was still their captain. "We are not specimens to be studied." "You are relics from a primitive era," replied coldly. "Your bodies contain valuable data. Your memories hold information about early human technology. This is not a request." The guards moved forward. Ho stepped between them and the survivors. He was just an old mechanic with a tool bag facing armed soldiers, but he did not move. "These people are human citizens," he said. They have rights. They are 300 years old. They have no legal status. They were human when they fell asleep. They are human now that they are awake. Their rights did not expire. More people appeared at the door. Human workers from the station, drawn by the commotion. Engineers, mechanics, pilots, medical staff. They gathered behind Ho, forming a wall between thee and the survivors. "This is ridiculous," said. "You cannot stop a galactic official." "We can try," said a young woman from the crowd. "These are our ancestors. You will not take them." Looked at the humans. There were maybe 50 of them now, more arriving every minute. They carried tools and equipment, not weapons, but their faces were determined. Commander Jin pushed through the crowd. "Inspector, I am invoking Article 47 of the Galactic Citizenship Treaty. These 12 individuals were born human. They hold expired but valid Earth citizenship. Under Article 47, they automatically receive modern human citizenship upon revival from extended sleep. That article was written for accidents and emergencies, not for ancient relics. The article does not specify a time limit. They were frozen, now they are awake. They are citizens." Was silent for a long moment. Then he smiled his cold smile. "Very well, I will not claim them as artifacts, but I still have interest in this ship." He pulled out a data pad and showed them an image. It was the power core. "My scanners detected something unusual in your vessel. This power core does not match any known human technology from 300 years ago. It does not match any known technology at all." Young and One looked at each other. A silent message passed between them. "Where did this technology come from?" demanded. "Who modified your ship during the journey?" One looked at the floor. Her old hands trembled. "We met someone," she said quietly. "Out there in the empty space between stars, we met someone who helped us." Everyone in the room went still. Whose voice was hungry? "Who did you meet?" One looked up. Her eyes were distant, remembering something from long ago. "They called themselves the Gardeners, and they saved our lives." The room erupted in questions, but One was too tired to answer. Ho helped her back to a medical bed. "Let her rest," he said firmly. "She has been through enough." But as Ho settled the old engineer into bed, One grabbed his wrist. "You need to understand," she whispered. "The Gardeners are real. They are out there watching us, and they have been watching for a very, very long time." Ho looked into her ancient eyes and saw something there. Not fear, not confusion. Wonder. Whatever the Gardeners were, One was not afraid of them. She was grateful. And that, more than anything else, made Ho want to hear her story. This engine room was cold and quiet. Ho stood before the strange power core, studying its alien components. Beside him, One sat in a wheelchair, wrapped in warm blankets. "It happened 200 years into our voyage," One began. Her voice was tired but steady. "I had woken up for the 7th time to repair a leak in the water system. When I finished, I noticed something on our sensors." "What kind of something?" "Light, soft, golden light moving toward our ship. At first I thought I was seeing things. I had been awake for 6 months, alone, talking to myself. Maybe I was going crazy." She paused, remembering. "But I was not crazy. The light came closer. It surrounded the ship, and then I heard voices in my head." Ho listened without interrupting. "They spoke directly into my thoughts. They said they had been watching our ship for decades. They knew we were dying. Most of our pods had already failed. The power core was breaking down. We had maybe 20 years before everything stopped working." "What did they want?" One smiled. "Nothing, they wanted nothing. They just asked me one question: did I want them to help? And you said yes." "I said yes, and they came aboard." She pointed at the power core. "They did not have bodies like us. They were made of energy, of light. They moved through walls like ghosts, but they were kind, so kind." One's eyes grew wet. "They repaired our power core. They made it so it would never fail. They strengthened our hull. They improved our life support systems. They worked for 3 days without stopping. Why? Ho asked. Why would they help strangers? I asked them the same thing. They said they were gardeners. They traveled across galaxies planting seeds of life. They had been doing this for millions of years. Whenever they found a young species struggling to survive, they helped, not by giving technology or knowledge, just by removing obstacles, fixing what was broken. Ho looked at the power core with new eyes. This was not just alien technology. This was a gift from beings who were ancient when humans still lived in caves. They saved your lives, he said. Yes, but before they left, they showed me something. They showed me visions of what humanity would become, cities on 1,000 worlds, ships crossing between galaxies, humans living alongside other species in peace. One gripped Ho's hand. They showed me you, Ho. They showed me an old mechanic finding our ship. They showed me that we would be rescued. They told me to keep hopping, keep repairing, keep waiting, because one day someone would come. Ho's throat tightened. He was just a mechanic. He had spent his life fixing broken ships, never thinking he was part of some greater story. Why me? He asked. Because you never gave up on anything. The gardeners said that was humanity's greatest gift, not intelligence or strength, stubbornness, the refusal to quit. A noise came from the doorway. Inspector stood there with his recording device. This is exactly what I suspected, the said. Evidence of the ancient ones, the beings who seeded life throughout the universe. Many species have legends about them, but no one has ever had proof, until now. He stepped forward, his 4 arms reaching toward one. You must come with me. The Galactic Council needs to hear your testimony. This changes everything we know about the history of intelligent life. She is too weak to travel, Ho said firmly. This is too important. Every species in the galaxy will want to know about this. Commander Jin appeared behind, and they will know, but not through interrogation. One will share her story when she is ready in her own way. This is not your decision to make. Actually, it is. Jin held up her data pad. I just received word from the human ambassador. The 12 survivors have been granted special protected status. They are under the direct protection of the Human Council. Any attempt to force them to do anything will be considered an act of aggression. His pale face turned darker. This information belongs to everyone. And it will be shared with everyone, on our terms, on their terms. Jin pointed at the survivors. These people are not property, they are heroes. For a long moment did not move, then he stepped back. Very well, but the Galactic Council will expect a full report within 60 standard days. They will have it. Left without another word, his guards followed him. When they were gone, one laughed. It was a weak laugh but genuine. 300 years ago, humans were afraid to leave Earth. Now we tell ancient galactic empires what to do. Things change, Ho said. For the better, I think. The next few weeks were busy. The 12 survivors were moved to Omega-7's medical center, where doctors worked to restore their health. Captain Young gave interviews to reporters from dozens of planets. He told the story of its mission and its long journey. One story about the gardeners spread across the galaxy. Some species reacted with fear, others with joy. Many religious groups claimed the gardeners were proof of their ancient beliefs. But for most people, the reaction was simply wonder. Out there, among the stars, there were beings who wanted to help, beings who believed that life was precious and worth saving. Ho watched all of this from a distance. He was not interested in fame or politics. He had a ship to restore. It would become a museum. Visitors from across the galaxy would walk its halls and learn about humanity's first colony ship. They would see the pods where 12 people survived against all odds. They would stand before the power core that the gardeners had touched. Ho was asked to lead the restoration project. He accepted. I thought you were retiring, Ben teased him one day. I will retire when this ship is perfect, Ho replied. She deserves that much. 6 months later, the restoration was complete. The gleamed like new, floating beside Omega-7. Thousands of people came to see it. Captain Young cut the ribbon at the opening ceremony. Ho did not attend the ceremony. He was inside the ship, sitting in the cockpit where he had first discovered the truth. The old photograph still hung on the wall, 20 people standing on the moon, dreaming of the stars. Ho had added a new photograph beside it. This one showed him and the 12 survivors standing together in the Omega-7 Medical Center. Some repairs take time, he said to the empty room. A hand touched his shoulder. He turned to see one standing there. She was stronger now, able to walk with a cane. The captain is asking for you, she said. He wants to thank you properly. I was just doing my job. One sat down beside him. No, you did more than that. You heard a call from 300 years ago and you answered it. She looked at the photograph of the original crew. The gardeners told me that every species has a moment when they stop being alone, when they realize they are part of something bigger. For humanity, this was supposed to be our moment. Finding a new home, proving we could survive among the stars. But you never got there. No, but maybe that was not the point. One smiled. Maybe the journey was always more important than the destination, and maybe our journey led exactly where it needed to go. She pointed out the window. Ho saw the station, filled with humans and aliens working together. He saw ships coming and going, connecting worlds that had never known each other existed. This is what we dreamed about, one said. Not a colony on some distant planet. All of this, you. Ho did not know what to say. He had never thought of himself as special, just an old mechanic who fixed broken things. But maybe that was special enough. Come on, one said, standing slowly. The captain is waiting, and I think there is cake. Ho took one last look at the photographs. The past and the present, side by side, connected by 300 years of hope. He followed one out of the cockpit. Some repairs took time, but every ship, every story, every dream deserved a chance to come home. And sometimes, the person who brought them home was just an old man with a tool bag, refusing to quit.